Hello and welcome back to Dice Jesters. My name is Julie.
And my name is Dave.
And today, Dave and I will be discussing our plays of Beer and Bread, a two-player game that we'll be getting into shortly. But before we get into that, I wanted, and I'm sure Dave's just as excited, but we wanted to discuss the concluding of Season 2 and the entering of Season 3.
The opening of a new chapter.
The opening of a new chapter. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Little storytellers. So, let's see. Can I be called intermediate gamer now?
I think so. Maybe even beyond that. Wow. What a progression from Season 1.
It's been a huge progression, especially when we had gone to your friend's, board game retreat, And... I mean, everybody was nice. Don't get me wrong. Everybody was very nice and welcoming. But when they pulled out Nucleum and they were, going about the players,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm a fast learn. I kind of got some looks.
Yeah, are you sure? Everybody says that.
Yeah, so that was interesting. And just only having around maybe 40-ish games and all. I know we have 2 10x10s. So obviously that was 20. And we've played a few card games in between.
Yeah.
For Halloween and stuff like that. But I would say around 40-ish games. I was very intimidated. And honestly, I wouldn't go with beginner because the games that I am developing a taste for, since for some reason board games are known to be tasty and crunchy.
Meaty. Yeah.
It's so gross. But are the heavier games. So I'm going to say I'm intermediate.
I'd say a lot of people in the world have played 1, maybe 2, 3 games. So I'd say 40 or so is a pretty good number. And the fact that you can pick up a game like Nucleum without many follow-up questions, where I have more follow-up questions than you. And you're teaching me the game as we're going through and helping me through my turns. I'm like, who's the teacher now? You're teaching me?
I'm like,
that's cool.
You can call me sensei. I'm like, here we go.
No, it's a good time.
Yeah, so that's really exciting. And honestly, this whole journey really has been magical, I would say. It's been quite an experience because going into it, I didn't feel that I would like it just because the stigma around board games and how, I don't know, there's just this negative stigma connected to board games that I have personally encountered. So I never felt welcome to come into it. But now that I have somebody as welcoming as you, Dave.
Oh, thank you.
I pretend I threw glitter. It has been a more welcoming environment and just being able to come in and explore. And you are a good teacher and all of that.
Oh,
so
you just showered me with compliments.
That's what I'm here for. No, I'm kidding. But overall, I've liked it a lot, and meeting people who are like-minded, where they're just like, oh, we want people to play board games, we want more people to get into it, has been really exciting in general.
Yeah, in the community that we interact with.
Yeah, because I was so worried. I was so worried that I was going to enter this community where people are like, oh, you're a girl, or oh, you haven't played this, and it's not that way for what I've seen so far. I know that there are the occurrences where it still is that way, but from my experience so far, everybody's been like, oh, try this, or oh, you liked Agricola, have you tried Le Havre, or oh, this, and so it's been really fun, and just getting to meet other people and learning their stories.
Yeah.
Or some questions that I absolutely love is oh, how do I get my partner into it, or oh, how do I get this person into it? And I'm all like, honestly, start with something cute and fun.
That's how I got you.
I was like, oh, so cute. All of Season 1, it was yeah, I like this game because it's cute, and now it's I like this game because I can just mess up your whole plan.
It makes my brain explode, which is good.
If my brain doesn't feel itched, I don't want it.
Yeah. What a transition from Season 1.
So I'm just beyond excited for Season 3, which I mean kind of leads into the theme of Season 3, which this has been a journey, and Season 3's, umbrella theme, I would say, is exploration.
Yes.
So if you look at the Jester, which, by the way, I've gotten better. Digital art, that's exciting. But look at the Jester, and you can guess the games, because we're going to keep the games anonymous this season. But if you want spoilers, you can check the Jester and see the game components. on the traveling cloak she has.
Yeah, and it was difficult. And I'll be honest, as we go through these 10 by 10 challenges, I don't know that we'll be able to fit them all into one theme, because this one I kind of had to really try and get creative. A couple of them might be a little bit of a stretch, but exploration is more of a state of mind. You're exploring something.
But well, you're exploring a new game. So
you are.
We're
exploring this hobby together. But I think I'm glad you mentioned the fact of feeling welcomed and everything. And, I setting off on this journey of Dice Jesters, I knew I wanted to do the 10 by 10 challenges. I thought that was a cool approach. And I think over the past couple of seasons, we've really found our style and what works for us. And looking forward to the future, I think we're probably going to get into more strategic, heavy games, especially this next season is full of them. Spoiler alert. And I think, if anything, what do I want to create? I want to create a welcoming environment and discussion where you and I can approach these with just a very friendly attitude. Like, we want people to discover this hobby and realize, hey, these big, heavy strategic games don't have to be for a very select audience. It can be for anybody, and that's kind of what I want to create with this.
Yeah, and if I can play Nucleum, you can too. And if you want to ask somebody, you can ask me. Yeah, if you want to ask somebody that will be welcoming, feel free. You can message us on Instagram, which is Dice Jesters. Sorry, I know I'm sounding like I'm plugging us in right now. Or you can email us too. Whatever you're comfortable with.
Without revealing anything, are there any games that you know about on the next season that you're really excited about?
Yes, there's a game that has I don't know, it's called a modular, yeah,
yes,
a modular aspect of it, similar to the game Bonfire. Ooh. Of what I've heard. So that's the one I'm excited for.
I'm excited for literally every game on this list. There isn't one that I'm not excited about. The first one that's coming up is one that I've wanted to play for a very, very long time.
Yes. So, enough of season 3 teasers. Let's get into Beer and Bread, which the last round made me giggle. But do you want to do maybe just a brief overview of what it is, how many players, etc., etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. And I picked this game just to start off. What drew me into this game was, the fact that it is for 2-player only. And it contains farming, which I've learned that you really love.
I do.
It has multi-use cards, which I've learned you really love from Bruges.
Yes.
And so I thought, let's give this one a try. I saw it on a Black Friday sale, so I picked it up. And I'm glad I did, because the game is, again, it's a 2-player only game. And you're essentially trying to bake bread and brew beer to get points. And you do that by collecting ingredients like hops and wheat and other water and other things, and basically cashing in those resources for contracts, for lack of a better word, to be able to fulfill orders for beer and bread. And there's a couple of really interesting twists in the game. And one of them is the round structure, because I think it's over 6 rounds or something like that. But you alternate rounds where in the first round, you have a hand of 5 cards. You pick a card, play it, and each card you can play in 3 different ways. You can play it for the ingredients on the card, which, by the way, the more of those you play, the more ingredients you get with each time you play it. The second thing you can do is to bake bread or brew beer by using those ingredients. And then the third thing that you can do is play the card as an upgrade for the bottom portion, and you slip it under your board so just the bottom part is showing, and it gives you ongoing abilities. So in the first round, you pick a card, you play it, we pass our hand to the other player, play a card, and it goes back and forth. And then for the next round, you pick up the cards that you use for ingredients, you refill your hand to 5 cards, you flip over 3 cards to a public display, and then you only use the cards from your hand or trade it for a card in the display. So whereas one, you're getting cards back and forth, the other one, you have a hand of cards and you have to decide how you're going to make this hand work. And also, with each alternating round, the number of resources that are available is a lot or a little. So it has this really interesting, I don't know how to describe it, just flow of the rounds, where each round feels a little bit different back and forth. And then the second thing that is really interesting is the way that the scoring works. I've been familiar with this style of scoring from Ryder Kinesia games, but basically at the end of the game, you flip over the cards that you use to bake bread and to brew beer, and you'll get points based on both of those categories. But then whichever category you got the fewest amount of points in, that's your final score for the game. So you kind of have to keep them even throughout the game. You don't want a lot of bread and just a little bit of beer. You want them to be pretty 50-50. So what did you think of this game? Did you have a good time? You know, you, like I said, you love farming, you love multi-use cards, you love the resource management. How did this stack up to other games of this style that we've played?
So this game, I felt like it was very thematic to begin off, like just to start it off, because, you know, it's the first thing you see. And I really wanted to play it at, I forgot what it's called, and that's okay, but there's this place that kind of has that feel where it looks like an adventure bar, you know?
Oh, yeah.
That's where I wanted to play it, because I felt like it would go really well with the theme, and then we could get second breakfast,
Oh.
and then it could be a whole thing.
Okay.
But that's okay. We can still do it. Like,
we can. We have the game.
Spoiler alert, it's a keep it to play, so...
Okay.
In general, I think that it was a good resource game, especially for a 2-player game. It looked as if it was play tested until they figured out a way to have it for 2 players, like based off of the resources in general, because it limited you during the drought season. Is that drought season?
I think it was drought or not famine, but less good.
Less of goods.
Yeah.
During that season, it was set up in a way where you could mess over the other person by collecting something that they may need or this or that.
Which you did to me a couple times. Thank you very much.
That. You're welcome. So it definitely was made for 2 players, and I really liked that aspect. But then when it came to the interchange of rounds, so like one round you would trade cards with each other back and forth and play a card, and then the next round you would keep all your cards. Like, that was a really interesting aspect that I thought added more depth to the game, because it was kind of like, was it Jekyll versus Hyde?
Yes.
That you traded cards like that?
Mm-hmm.
And so it added to the intensity of, am I going to get the card back that I needed? And sometimes you would take them and it would be like, oh,
yes,
no.
You love that extra storage. The extra storage you were all.
Oh yes, the extra storage was my favorite, and then the like points at the end and the extra goods in the beginning. So we played it, I don't know, was it 4 times?
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first time I did good because I didn't really understand the game. Second time I did bad because I understood the game. Third time I added strategy in and was like, okay, in the beginning, I'm not going to purchase anything, because that's what I did in the second round. I was like, oh, you need to purchase these. So I was just like, no, I have to start with good concrete base. So that's what I did. I started with concrete base, but I still lost because I don't know why. The concept of whichever one's the lowest is your final score. I don't know. I didn't grasp that for some reason. So then the last turn, the last game, Dave. The last one.
You won by 1 point.
I won by 1 point because I was trying. I was looking at my cards, making sure that they were even the whole time.
You did really good, because that was 23 points that you got, and the prior rounds were like 13, 14 or something like that. Yes. But I love that beginning part. And I played the same way my first time through. I was like, oh, I just need to play this card to get ingredients. But then, you know, the first time I played it, I was like, oh, is this one of those games where, you know, you try to gather ingredients and then you try to, like, hopefully draw the right card to match the ingredients that you have. And then I realized, no, while you can play that way, you're not going to play well. What you want to do is build the engine in the beginning of the game. That's why I love our later rounds of it. Like you said, the very first round, neither of us played cards for ingredients. We just played cards for upgrades. Yeah. And so it was like this back and forth. It almost reminded me of if we play Agricola and then get the hand of cards in the beginning, and you draft them back and forth, and you try to get cards that mesh well together to build a strategy. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what the first maybe 1.5 to 2 rounds of this felt like. But then the last 2 rounds, then there was a mid game where you try to start collecting the right ingredients, and then there was an end game where you're trying to fulfill all the orders that you possibly can and basically run this engine to collect all these ingredients, cash them in. And so it had this really nice flow that wasn't apparent to me the first time I played it, but the more I played it, I realized there's a lot of strategy in those first couple of rounds of building things together that will get you to where you want to go.
Yeah, it's kind of like actual farming.
Which I would know absolutely nothing about. Tell me, Julie, how is this like actual farming?
Because you're gathering the equipment to start, and then you're making the goods, and then you're selling your goods. Yeah, there you go.
Farmer Julie, thank you so much for enlightening me.
Anytime. Corn I don't know how to make, but yeah, so there it is. I don't know how to grow hops either, or anything that would be needed for this game.
That's okay. I also love the art. Michael Menzel did the art for this, and he did also Bruges and some other games.
Oh, that's why I was just like, this kind of looks like...
It had a familiar feel when you look at the art.
Maybe that's why I liked it so quickly, because I like Bruges a lot.
Yeah, you do.
I do.
So this is a keep it to play then?
It is a keep it to play, and I like that it's pretty small, so you could bring it around, you know? You don't have to lug a big box or anything. This fits in a backpack, I would say. Yeah,
and our rounds were about 30 minutes, so pretty quick and easy.
Doesn't take up too much table space.
I could see us using this as a game. You know, we've played a 10 by 10 challenge, or we've played a game 10 times, and we need a little bit of a palate cleanser. This could be a game we could break out that would still give us that strategic
feel,
itch.
But it's still on the
lighter side.
Yeah, that's the word, lighter side.
This is probably the lightest game I think that you would enjoy at this point. But we'll see. So I am beyond thrilled to open this new chapter of season 3 of our 10 by 10 challenge, which is going to be pretty insane. When I look at this game, the games on this list, I'm a little bit scared, but we're gonna get through this, and it's gonna be an interesting journey.
So season 2 started in September, ended late January, and that's September, about 5-ish months.
Yeah.
Let's do this in 4.
You think we can do it?
No, I think we only were able to do it because there were those nights that we stayed up until 2 playing some of the games.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to do that again. And some of the games on this list, I could see it only being a 1 play an evening kind of game, so we'll see.
Just because they're
bigger, longer, more intense.
More things to do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited, and I love your whimsical ending there. We're beginning the new chapter.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining us this week. Be sure to join us next week as we begin our season 3 journey there. If you have any questions on how we complete our 10 by 10s or how we choose our 10 by 10 games, feel free to email us or reach out to us on Instagram. Our email is thedicejesters@gmail.com, and our Instagram is Dice Jesters. We are also on Patreon as well if you would like to see some behind the scenes content and more videos of Lupin. I know I'm a big fan of Lupin, so but our Patreon is Dice Jesters as well. And we are on YouTube, so our YouTube's gonna be more of a whimsical take because we are really leaning heavy into the jester portion. And so we want to be more of that storyteller aspect. So if you're interested in seeing how those go, feel free to join us on our YouTube as well. And again, thank you so much for listening to us. If you could give us 5 stars, that would mean the world to us, but it's up to you. Don't feel obligated. So, whether you were crafting the perfect pint or baking the ultimate loaf, your skills have truly shined. Until next time, may your beers be frothy and your bread be fluffy. Cheers.